What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a new video. And today I am very, very excited because I'm joined by the legendary Tina Guo. Thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it. And yeah, it was just, it just came to my mind. Like I worked with Tina before. Last year we did a piece together, and ever since she's been doing like really amazing work that I've seen on her wall. And now she recently enrolled in a business course as well, right? Or type
Yes,
of
yesterday.
thing.
I'm so happy to be here on Chris's channel to chat with you guys. Yes, I started my first day of virtual or online school yesterday at Harvard Business Online.
Amazing.
I'm taking a negotiation mastery class to better improve my fighting skills. No, I'm kidding. My negotiation skills.
Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, Tina, if you don't know, is a fantastic cellist, and she also plays the electric cello and the erhu and other instruments as well. So I kind of wanted to get her thoughts on kind of working in the industry and being online as a content creator and all that stuff. So for those who might not know you, Tina, would you mind sharing a little bit of your background with us and how you grew up with music, and what point in your career became that turning point, or that gave you that spark to say like, okay, I don't want to do this for a living. I want to pursue making music and composing and recording cello for a living.
Sure. Okay, so I tend to talk a lot, so stop me at any time. I'm going to try to keep myself concise.
No worries.
So I was born in the land of China, made in China, 100%. In the year 1985, on the 28th of October, I am a Scorpio, and the scorpion is also my spirit animal.
There you go.
Here I go. I'm going off on a tangent.
No,
All right,
no, I love it. Keep going.
And my parents are both classical musicians. So my mom plays a violin. That's the one that goes, nee, 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 nee. And then my dad is a cello player, like I play this way, like the big violin between legs. And they're both classical musicians and classical music teachers. So as you can imagine, on top of being like, Chinese tiger parents from China who grew up during the Communist Revolution, who were both in the army, so they were very, very strict. I was forced to practice. It really wasn't by choice. I was not one of those like prodigy children who woke up at 4 a.m. and said, "Mommy, I want to practice cello." No, I did not want to do that. So I was forced to, usually 7 to 8 hours a day, every day from when I started cello at 7. I started piano earlier at age 3, but I don't think I practiced 8 hours a day because years old, it's a little extreme, maybe 4.
Fair enough.
So I practiced a lot. I played mostly classical music. Actually, no, sorry, all classical music, because my parents, again, being very strict and being very single-mindedly focused, and felt like any type of music that wasn't classical music, or at least semi-neoclassical, was like, demon music, basically.
Yes.
Evil and all that stuff. So I really wasn't exposed to other styles of music except for what I heard on the radio. I managed to borrow a Marilyn Manson CD, Antichrist Superstar. That was my first, love affair with the darker side of life and music. When I was in middle school, I borrowed it from the friendly school goth, and I loved it because it was like dark and angsty. And, for me, I don't know about other kids, or I think a lot of Asian people, to be honest, because we are all parented in a similar way, not to be overgeneralized, but
that's true.
It is a cultural thing, and I understand where it comes from, of course. I'm not saying it's bad or it doesn't work. Obviously it works, but for me, I had a lot of like angst and anger and frustration because I didn't have much of a childhood, if any at all. I really wasn't allowed to do anything fun. It was all about be productive, make sure you can make money one day, you have to be successful, you have to, so everything was about getting, just having to be the best everywhere. So life was a competition for me from the very beginning. But anyway, that basically, I think, formed the foundation for my cello playing skills, which I'm very grateful for now, because it does make it a lot easier to work, in the soundtrack industry, to sight read music. Oh my gosh, my children are joining us. Pizza and bagel.
They match your jacket too. I love it. It's great.
So I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity, that experience. And also, I think it ingrained a lot of work ethic in me. And sometimes it's a little bit too much because, the environment that you're raised in, what you're exposed to, it really changes like the way that you think and the way you are. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
No worries.
Hey, I'm doing a very important interview with Chris right now. Can you guys come down? Okay, thank you. um, yeah, so anyway, then fast forward, I was in China. I moved to America when I was 5. My mom's parents actually raised me until I was 5 years old. So I came to America. They met me. Hello, daughter. You're going to play an instrument. I practiced 8 hours a day, all the way through high school. I started performing professionally as like classical soloist, playing with symphonies and concertos and stuff like that. I think the first concert I did was when I was 9. So like 2 years after I started playing cello. And I pretty much just did all the competitions and all the normal stuff, whatever. And then I got a scholarship, a full scholarship to USC, the Thornton School of Music, for classical cello performance. And because my parents couldn't afford to pay for college, if I didn't use a scholarship, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be a cellist. So
Right.
I went, I studied cello, but being that it was my first time outside of the house, outside of my parents' rule, I was able to explore different kinds of music, different kinds of people. For me, musical expression, I think for everybody, is very, very ingrained with life experience. For me, the way that I play, I am a little melodramatic, but I'm a dramatic person. It's not fake, it's actually how I am. And I think the more that I experience the extremes that I experience in life, the more that I can bring into my music, because again, it's genuine. It's not pretending to be this or pretending to be that. I'm just actually like crazy, So, and so I was able to experience a lot of things. I was allowed on the internet for the first time. I remember internet was like kind of invented when I was in, I think, middle school, the AOL CDs that they would send out to everybody, that get really slow dial up. Man, I'm almost 35. I'm turning 35 in October. For you, you're young. So I was allowed on the internet. And by that time, like it wasn't just dial up anymore by the time I was in college. So I saw YouTube, and YouTube had just come out. Facebook, I was in one of the first test groups for Facebook, because it was for colleges. So, so USC, I got on Facebook very, very early. It was like, it used to just be one page. I'm like, oh my God, what's this? And I loved it. I documented everything that happened. I took photos of myself, and this was before people had the word selfies. They're like, why are you taking photos of yourself? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to share what I'm doing. And I watched a lot of YouTube videos and tutorials from guitar players. There were guitar players that started giving little tutorial videos. Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Vai, all of these shredders. That's how I first, because I feel like the really technical musicians, not so much more, there's nothing wrong with simple music, because I love simple music, but it's the more technically music type of musicians, all those players who were shreddy, I really connected to that, because that's kind of, I feel like classical in a way. They're very classically inspired with the impressive playing and the technical skills and stuff like that. So I watched those videos, and I'm trying to there's so much that happened, so I'm just, and then I dated a metal guitar player for a while, which really helped. That was my first, actually I did a lot of metal guitar players, but the first one, I went to the Whiskey, which is on the Sunset Strip, one of the classic, iconic clubs of the golden era of metal and rock, which sadly is not so much anymore. These kids. And so I was exposed to that world. And I remember that very first show that I went to in person. It was it was dark. It was a little dirty. I don't drink. I actually never drank, but people were drinking, having a good time. But everyone was super friendly, and the music and the vibe, it was very, very just aggressive and dark. Nobody is pretending to be, oh, how lovely. Everybody was just them. I felt like they were real, not to say other people are not real, but just from my experience now, meeting all kinds of people, and of course being in a lot of, I don't know what you want to call it, the metal world, or metalheads, super nice, super sweet. And I have a theory that it's because we get all of our aggression and frustration out musically.
In the music, yeah.
It looks like nothing to really, you're not holding everything in and pretending everything's fine and wonderful, So
Right.
So that's kind of what established my foundation for my personal music interests or background. And my intention while I was in college, I started experimenting with the electric cello, playing standing up and all that stuff, because it is very different. I try to treat the electric cello more as a guitar would be the best equivalent. and I still play classical cello, and the classical cello is a classical cello. I try my best to keep like a kind of a separation, a yin and yang, Dr. Jekyll Hyde kind of thing. And so I released a music video. When people ask me, so what was the turning point? I don't think there really is a turning point. I think everything, it's like, you're like clawing. I mean, you know how it is. It is very, very difficult to build a career, even harder to maintain a career, you know? So you're just every single day, like obsessively trying everything. 99% of everything does not work. Everything fails. People don't know this, but I've had like 7 or 8 failed band projects, you know? So I've tried many times, and I was trying to mostly do metal music and rock music. And unfortunately right now in the world, metal and rock isn't super popular. It's more hip hop and maybe electronic, which is great, you know? So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I wasn't making any money. I was living in a garage with no air conditioning or heat, you know, in like a really shady neighborhood in the LA area, not actual LA, because it was too expensive. So, and I thought, you know what, I saved some money. I did have some credit card debt from purchasing, you know, musical equipment and stuff like that. But maybe I should listen to my Chinese parents. Maybe I should, you know, audition for a symphony. So I actually started preparing to audition for the San Diego Symphony. They had an opening. You know, the salary isn't great, but it's obviously more than I'm making. Yeah,
sure.
And I said, okay, maybe I should do like my last hurrah. I can like just make this like music video, this vision, because I would tell people, yeah, I want to play like electric cello, and I want to be this, I want to be that, but nobody cares what you want to be. No, people only care about what you are, right? Nobody wants to jump on your bandwagon until it's already rolling, which people sometimes find frustrating, but that's real life. That's how it is. So it's a long story of how I happened to meet these different people and how it happened, but I basically spent every penny that I had saved, including money for food and rent for the next month. And I spent it on my Queen Bee music video. So the year was 2009, 11 years ago. And I shot this music video with the help of many, you know, endorsers and friends and companies and people who like Coffin Case, which is a company that makes coffin-shaped guitar cases. Nice. Johnny, the owner, he was so kind, and he volunteered to let me shoot in his like a warehouse space, like a raw space, because I couldn't afford, you know. So it was just so many things that, and friends came and like brought food. I remember one friend brought like dim sum, yum. But I couldn't get anything. I was like nervous. Just try to help out, and we were able to put this together. And my idea was like, okay, so this is my last hurrah. So if I put this video up on YouTube, you know, this big thing, maybe like a metal band will see it, or Rammstein, my favorite band, will see it, or Metallica, or somebody will see it, and they'll be like, hey, let's have that cello player play with us. Yeah, guys, that's not how life works. So I put it up, and alas, nobody, you know, in the rock or metal world contacted me about it. However, a friend of mine, Anne Marie, who plays the violin, and she was friends with Hans and working with him on some stuff. I guess, I don't know exactly how it happened, but I think they were working on Sherlock Holmes back in 2009, the same year. It was literally in the same month the video came out. And I think he said to her like, oh, I'm looking for a cellist, you know, and she's like, oh my God, I have to show you this music video. It's like, it's crazy. It's rated 18 and over. I mean, so it's nice. It was my artistic. So he saw the music video, and then he had his assistant at the time call me the same day. And I honestly did not know who he was. I've never heard of Hans Zimmer. Of course I heard his music, but I had no interest, not that I didn't have interest, but I just didn't really know anything about the soundtrack world. Sure. I played on a couple of student composers projects at USC, but I'm like, meh, you know, whatever. Okay. And so he called, and blah, blah, blah. Next week I went in. I didn't really understand what was happening. I walked in to remote control, and I remember they told me, oh yeah, Hans is in the other building in the back, because there's many buildings, but at the time there's, I think, only two or three in his empire. So I went to the back building where the kitchen is. I went upstairs, and I recognized Guy Ritchie, you know, so I'm like, oh, like he must be a pretty big deal. I don't know what's going on. You know? So I sat down, we ate lunch, and it was very surreal. And then at the time I was still smoking, and Hans was as well. He no longer smokes. And then we went out on the balcony, and we both had a cigarette together, and then we negotiated. Speaking of negotiation skills, you know, 11 years later, taking this course, we just talked about, he was like, so how much do you want? So we talked about how much. It was like, so it was actually very cool, very relaxed, you know. And I watched a like temporary, I guess, cut of the movie to get an understanding of it. And then I started working on it the following day, like immediately. So that's how the relationship with Hans began. It's been 11 years. And then also John Debney saw the same music video and he asked me to come in, and instead of having a guitar player, you know, play solos over stuff like they do, he had me do it on the electric cello for Iron Man 2, I think it was, Iron Man 2. And then from there, things kept going. I had already met Austin Wintry, my dear friend Austin, at USC because he was in college at the time. We didn't work on anything together while we were in college, but after I left, around the same time, I recorded for Journey. You know, I have a little artwork from Journey,
Beautiful.
right? And it just kind of like kept going. And then for me, because I'm naturally a very, I think, open person, I like to share everything I'm doing just because it's fun and exciting for me. I think I unintentionally was really into like marketing myself on social media before I even knew what I was doing.
Right.
And I feel like not a lot of musicians in this industry, I guess in this film scoring industry, because there's a lot of musicians that play in the orchestras, and I did do that for many years. But for me, my passion is more about having a little bit more creative input sometimes, and then doing something that's like weird or different on the electric or acoustic cello. I feel like I'm talking way too much.
No, this is great.
How about you ask me more specific questions, and then
they're coming up. Don't worry. No, well, yeah. That's wonderful. So we got up to basically that point in your life where I guess up to now you've had all the success with just that one music video, and that basically sparked the whole thing, and that just proves how powerful the internet and showing, like, I guess putting yourself out there really is.
Yeah, and the continuation, that was the first, but
right.
now I think over 300 or I don't know, a few hundred
right.
on YouTube.
Right. Amazing, yeah.
Videos, but it's all about content. You know
yes.
This is key. So constant on every social media platform. It's a lot of work, but yes, life is a lot of work. So just to constantly, daily have updates for people. You know?
And I think when you think of it as a business, it becomes easier. Like it's part of your routine, right? Like it's something you just need to do, but it's fun, so it doesn't feel like work, right? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just curious. Out of all the instruments that you play, you mentioned your classical cello, of course, and your electric cello. But on your downtime, when you're like relaxing, if you just had to play something, if you felt like playing music, is there like a specific instrument you kind of turn to more than the other, or does it kind of depend on your mood or?
Oh, the classical cello, probably just because out of laziness, it's always out and it's right there. So it's, and I feel like if you learn a piece of music on the classical cello first, it is a better way of, maybe just because I started on the classical cello, you know what I mean? And
right.
I'll start from there.
Cool. Yeah. I can kind of relate to that too. Like I guess as a pianist, you can play synthesizers, you can play all these different keyboard instruments, but the piano is kind of the most bare instrument. You don't have 1,000 knobs to tweak and stuff. So if you can get it right on one instrument, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, it's all in your fingers.
It is. Yeah, the technique, everything. Yeah. So when you're playing like film music and versus like classical music, is there a big mental difference? Is there a way you kind of have to prepare yourself? Is film music more of like is it more theatrical? Is concert music maybe a little more emotional? Like how do you differentiate between those personally?
I don't differentiate. So for me, I mean, film music, it's not even a genre of music. I mean, it is, we call it film music because it happens to be music and films.
For the film, yeah.
Yeah, but it's in the end, what is film music? It's everything. You know, every invention and new type of music that there's ever been has appeared in some form of media or soundtrack before. So film music is just music that happens to be commissioned for a certain purpose, and that's exactly the same as classical music, because most classical musicians have always been poor and needed, rich people or royalty or kings and princes and churches to pay them to write music for their mass, for their birthday parties and stuff like that. And so that has always been the case, of music being supported by patrons. And I think now the composers are like, okay, how do I make a living? There's no more princes there's no Prince of Los Angeles to pay you to write music for some inauguration. Now It's, the film business, or the TV business, video game music business. And so for me, music is music. It doesn't matter what it is. I treat it all the same.
Cool.
And I think different people are different. So I think some musicians, maybe if they come from a certain world, they might get a little bit stuck with like, because they so, and I was there for a while. I was stuck because I felt like everything that was ingrained and forced into my, into my head, from my parents and from teachers and stuff like that in the classical world, which again is very, what's the right word? Very limited, in their knowledge. I mean, they're very knowledgeable about what they know, but what they know, I mean, how many people in the world actually learn about classical music? It's like less than 1% of the population, right? And they feel like they know everything, but it's like, okay, you know everything about less than 1%, So I think it's healthier, and that's just my opinion, of course, but I think it's healthier to be an open-minded type of person and to be willing to, just like be willing to hear people's ideas politically or, about different things, also to hear and be open to other types of music, because then you're not limiting yourself to being, a stick in the mud. So.
I know, I love that. And I especially relate to your story because, as you mentioned, you were brought up classically trained as on the cello, and me on the piano as well. And then I actually went to university for piano as well, and developed my skills there. And then it's funny, my old piano teachers would say, don't go into music unless you can't live without music, right? And then my parents as well, they would be like, you like, it's not feasible to make a living in music. But then they would always say, we don't know any better. So if you prove us wrong, then there's nothing that would make us happier, obviously, right? They just want the best for us. But it just proves that, like, if you find the right ways to pull in sources of income, then it's definitely possible. It's just, connections and everything.
I really think the biggest issue with, I'm not, again, like because going on with what you're talking about, we are just talking about making music a money-making career, right? Yeah. Not a hobby. I mean, everyone should play music for fun if they want to. Right now, for the purposes of this discussion, we're talking about a career, a viable career. And the one thing that is missing from most musicians is this disconnect between the business and the art. You don't understand. Without the business, there is no art. Without the business, there has never been art. Like I mentioned, even in classical times, if they couldn't schmooze with the right people with money, that's it. It's over. They had to go to the farmer and make potato or grow. So it's like, I don't understand. It's like, to me, it's like, I'm incredulous that people still don't understand that after thousands of years of historical accurate experience.
Right.
And so I think musicians, and I have met people like that, I've dated people like that, who are like, no, I'm an artist, I'm gonna only do what I want. I'm like, all right, have fun in your trailer. So it's no, and the thing is, when you can understand how to market yourself, I'm not saying you have to like only do stuff you don't like or whatever because it happens to be trending, but to understand how to market yourself, because I actually think it's like, they say 50-50. I would even say it's 49% of your actual product and your talent, which is necessary, because if you can't have 100% without that 49%, but even 51% now, because it's getting more and more competitive, because there are new musicians and young people who grew up with, I sound like old personality, all those young kids who grew up with the internet, social media, understanding, marketing, brand marketing. They don't even know what it's called, but that's what they're doing, every day. So I think for any musicians who are not on the marketing boat, or in the business and trying to understand all of that, it's going to make it very, very difficult to be a competitive, person in this market. So.
Yeah, I mean, I get this question all the time. Like, as a composer, how do you make a living in this industry? And you're a composer yourself, so you definitely understand that. So I guess going along that point, then, when we think of marketing nowadays, does marketing and online kind of go hand in hand when it comes to this type of industry, and how crucial is being online in all these platforms to get yourself out there? Or is it more important to have those, I guess, in-person connections? What do you think?
Well, I mean, everything is online these days, especially literally these days of COVID, because, we're all online. And so, yes, I think for a long time, even 11 years ago when I started, things were already online, so it was, for me, I just happened to get lucky that I unintentionally was online marketing, but I was just, whatever, being a kid posting online. So
putting yourself out there. That's it.
Yeah. And just like you and I, we first connected online, right?
Yes.
And then we talked, we got to know each other. Then we met in person. And then when you asked me to do this, I'm like, of course, it's Chris, so when people say, oh, but it's just online, it's not. Online is real life, like this is the mothership. Like it's some separate entity. Like you're not a robot I'm talking to. You're a person in a different country. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, what does he do with the real Chris? He's in the car.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely, and that's what leads. Because again, with Hans, for example, my probably the composer other than Hans and Austin, Hans and Austin, I think, and Bill Brown are the composers that I've had the longest relationships with. I've worked with since I was 18, 19 years old.
Wow.
So and all of them started online. Even with Austin, like we were at the same school, and he Facebook, because on Facebook Messenger, he also wrote to me for the first time on there in email. So online stuff is real life, and people need to understand that. Yeah.
Right. So another question I usually get a lot is, as a working musician, assuming we have these stabilities in our life, how do you handle work and then outside of work, the balance? What's the balance between knowing how much to work and then taking time away for family and all that stuff? It's a hard question, I think, especially for me too. But
yeah, let me know when you figure that out. I truly believe there is no such thing as balance. Life is nothing in the world is perfect and balanced and la. Sometimes you're going to have to put 20 hours a day into a project because that's just what it is. And then sometimes you're going to burn yourself out and then be like, you know what, fuck it, I can't hear anymore for like 3 days. I need to. Then I stop and I go do something else. So for me, I try to at least take 1 day off per week, kind of. That doesn't usually happen. I think it depends on what your definition is of taking time off. I do try to, like, now especially, I started cooking more and baking, which is super fun. And I've been posting about that.
It looks so good.
Thank you. So we try to at least have, like, Rambo, my husband and I, we try to have at least like one sit down meal together. And then obviously in the evenings when we're hanging out in bed, watch something and chat and stuff. So it helps a lot that we're quarantined together, because then we actually get to be closer to each other. And I know people are like really struggling being around their significant others or families 24/7, because maybe before they weren't used to that and they're not as codependent as we are, but I'm actually loving it. Like, we're having a great time. Like our kids, our animals are codependent. We're codependent. So this is actually great for us. But
wonderful.
I have to be honest with you that a lot of times, throughout, it is a struggle. And I don't think there is such a thing as balance. You just have to sometimes be willing to sacrifice certain things for others, and then hope that over time, over the span of your entire career, you hope that it balances out. But I do have to say, I know of a lot of composers and other musicians and touring musicians who have sacrificed their personal lives for their career. I don't know if they regret it or they don't regret it. It's your personal thing. You don't have to have a personal relationship or even a family. You can do whatever you want. I think people just need to really truly ask themselves, will you be happy, fulfilled, or are you going to be depressed if you come home from tour or come home from the studio and there's nobody there to give a damn about you, So yeah. And for me, I'm like a very emotionally needy person. And I need a lot of affection and care. And that to me is very, very important. So my career is important to me, but so is the relationship. And so, yeah, so it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of fights and stuff like that, because that's real, it's real life, and you just have to figure it out, and it's different for everyone. So.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and you've been doing this for more than a decade now, and it's still trying to figure it out, and that just that's a musician's life nowadays, I'm sure.
No, it really is.
Yeah.
Constant work every day, but every marriage or relationship.
Sure. Yeah. I have another question here. So yeah, I mean, you reside in Los Angeles, and you've had a steady stream of work, and I wanted to ask you, how do you find the proximity of living in Los Angeles, and how that relates to the amount of work that you get? Do you think it's really important to live in a specific area with a lot of opportunities, or do you think it's manageable living outside of maybe living in a rural area? Is that okay as well?
Definitely. Okay, first of all, I am no longer in Los Angeles. We're in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. Right. Sorry. Yes.
We're in my new place, so we can't really see here. We're in my new place in Las Vegas. Okay, that gives you like a 1 centimeter view. Yeah. So we moved here 3 months ago. So literally we moved from LA, and then coronavirus, lockdown happened. So it's just in time. Hey, one of my dogs brought one of my fuzzy slippers out. Okay, sorry. So I it's a little complicated. I feel like overall the answer is no, because I know a lot of musicians, successful musicians, composers who don't live in a major city, who do everything online and are able to market themselves or whatever they need to do online, build a huge online following. Because nowadays, like it depends. I think if you're talking about a specifically like a film music or soundtrack composer, maybe in some circumstances it probably would help to be in LA, where you can get more experience. Maybe if you start, working as an assistant or working as an assistant composer for a composer that's already established, and hope that over many, many years you can build relationships with the people, all that normal stuff. But I think the question is it possible to do it without living in LA or New York, I guess, if you're trying to do Broadway or stuff like that? Yes, absolutely. It is completely possible. And for me, I did, live in Los Angeles. Yes, I met some people in LA, but the thing is, I think even if I lived somewhere else and I was able to put out the same type of content or whatnot, it would still have led to that. However, I do have to say that, for example, the team that I did Queen Bee with, they're all in LA, but if I was somewhere else, so I will let you know, because now I'm here in Las Vegas. It's also a lot of entertainment here. But after coronavirus is like hopefully a little bit better outside, it's safe to go outside. Post-apocalypse, I will go out and build a new team locally here. So I do feel that it is possible. And then also, I don't know if you guys are familiar, you guys watching, or you, Chris, with any like YouTube musicians, so like professional YouTube musicians who don't do any live performances or like stuff like that, who've ended up also into our soundtrack world. I hope Taylor Davis doesn't mind me talking about her. Amazing. She's a friend. Yeah, I don't know if you met her.
She's awesome.
Yeah. And so she has a course out about like how to market yourself as an online musician. And I previewed it, and she gave me like a link to check out, and I watched some of it, and it's amazing. I mean, she's making, well over 6 figures every year for the last 10 years. She does not, yeah. And this is mostly from her sales of her music. She has lots of music videos, and she is a marketing genius, and I've actually learned a lot watching her stuff, watching Peter Hollins, Lindsay Sterling, like all this stuff, trying to figure out, because even if you are in maybe the traditional film scoring world, having an online brand, so if you have hundreds of thousands of followers, millions of views, it raises your value in like everything raises the value of everything else. You can really cross leverage your branding there. And so I also know of some composers who are very, very popular, trailer music composers on YouTube, who've gone platinum with their albums. And it's kind of weird because like you feel like in the world, nobody would really know who they are by name, but then you go on YouTube, you're like, oh my God, how's this possible? It's like 200 million views on these videos that are not even videos, it's just music. So it is, literally anything is possible online.
Love it. That's fantastic. So I guess leading off from that, then, if you had to provide like one parting piece of advice for the upcoming musician or composer who wants to make a living in this industry, it's a big question, but what do you think you would recommend?
I would recommend that you, just like you spend money on your equipment and taking lessons, you have to also spend some time and money, invest into learning some basic online social media marketing skills. There's a ton of books out there, there's, but for me, I didn't really learn from books. I just kind of like obsessively Googled stuff and researched and try to look it up. The best way to learn is by copying. I don't mean literally copying what someone's doing, but seeing, just like in a piece of music, you study how Mozart wrote something, you try to analyze theoretically how he did it, and then you learn, right? So it's the same thing. So you take somebody who's very successful, even if it doesn't matter if you don't like their music, doesn't matter if you think they're playing as shit. A lot of people, I feel like, come from, oh, I don't like what they do. Nobody cares what you think. Apparently, a billion other people like what they do. So you need to understand why, and look for, so if you're a, I don't know, like whatever it is that you do, you're a trombone player, try to find the 3 top, successful trombone players, not in the classical world, but like in online. Study what they do. It doesn't mean you have to do the same thing, but analyze how often do they post, what type of content do they post, what is their most popular content, what hashtags are they using, what type of audience do they have. It's like you really need to understand like what is it that they're doing. And if you are trying to get attention, doing covers definitely helps, because people are searching for those covers already. So I also do career consultation sessions, and with a lot of my clients, you know, they say, because I was the same way, so I totally understand coming from a classical world, but I'm, you know, or like an original artist. Well, I'm an artist. I don't want to do covers, you know, I want to do my own music. Okay, that's fine. But if nobody knows about your own music, if Tina wrote a song called I Love Pizza, okay, actually people are probably searching for I Love Pizza. If Tina wrote a song called Rhapsody, you know, 2005, nobody is searching for the words. Literally, no one's looking for Rhapsody 2005. But if you research and see, okay, on the top Billboard charts or on upcoming movies or something's coming out and you know the theme, for example, there's a new Top Gun movie coming out, right? That Hans is doing.
Mm-hmm.
You already know what the theme is of Top Gun because it happened before in a previous movie. You're like, if I'm smart, I'm going to think about what will become trending in the upcoming months. I will take the original Top Gun theme. I will do like your own, and that's where you be creative. You do like something super crazy or super simple, your own version, your Tina-fied or Chris version of the Top Gun theme, because you already know guaranteed 100% people are going to be searching for it. It's a blockbuster, you know, tentpole type of things. You have it ready and you wait until usually when they start marketing for the film. So when they start talking about it, maybe, what is it, like a month or even like a week before the premiere, like you time it out. So see how everything is micro-analyzed. You release it, you make sure all the hashtags are on there. And then the people who are searching for the trailers, people who are searching for stuff, they will hopefully, you know, by accident come across your cover. But the thing is, that is like 10 million times more effective and useful than only releasing your original music, because who on earth is looking for your original music if they don't know you? There's no one looking for you, you know. So covers is one of the most powerful tools to get an audience. And then once you have an audience and you create like a real emotional attachment to them, and you can form emotional bonds online. I mean, people get catfished all the time, right? So you can form an emotional relationship with people musically, and people who love everything that you do. And after you do your cool covers or this or that, you know, and you can see like Taylor's done that as well. She's released her own original music. I've done the same thing. I'll do my covers and stuff like that of music I do enjoy. And then I'll be like, oh, here's an original. And because they already like you or follow you, they'll be like, cool, she did something new. And then they will support you just to be nice. It's because they're like your fan already, you know? And then the other thing is just remember, having, as far as relationships and fans, and I think composers can also have fans. Well, obviously Hans has proven that very much so. Selling out arenas. You don't need 1 million fans. Sure, numbers are great, but if you have 1 million people who just follow you casually, maybe some of you are hate following you or something like that, it doesn't equate to dollars. It doesn't equate to, again, making a living out of it. All you need is 1,000 true fans, maybe even less. If you have 1,000 people in the entire world of billions, right, who are willing to spend $100 a year on you, that's it. $100 a year is not that much. That's like, you know, what is it, 30 cents, less than 30 cents a day. You make 6 figures, like $100,000 a year, right? So that's okay. That's not talking about taxes and all that stuff, but just think of that concept, because people get overwhelmed, like, oh my God, Tina, I need to have like millions. No, you don't. You need to somehow find your people, your niche, and you can do covers and stuff like that, but try to do it in your own original way. You know, show how you're different. Do those covers. And then, you know, connect with those people. And then once they really connect with you genuinely, and you find your tribe or your people who like what you do, and I think another huge mistake that people try to do is appeal to too many people. And I know that sounds like the opposite of doing the covers thing, but no, because when you're doing covers, you're just trying to, yes, reach a lot of people, but then the people who will stick with you are the people who like the way that you do whatever you're covered a certain way. So I think being very specific and understanding what is your sound, even if you are multifaceted. Like for me, I do a lot of different styles of music, but it's weird because I think certain people, like some people, like someone said to me yesterday, oh, you play classical cello? I'm like, oh, yeah, obviously, you know, but I'm like, I've been playing concertos since I was 9, but the thing is, people are very singular minded, which is fine. They have to put things in boxes. A lot of people are like that. And they think, oh, Tina, the electric cello player.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? That's not a bad thing, because that's a very, very small market, and it's easy to have a monopoly on that market. You know, like she's like the Asian chick who plays electric cello, and you know, and
Right.
it's very oversimplified, but that's memorable for people.
Yes.
So, okay, like don't feel like bad about, you know, what your signature thing is, and then from there, then you can expand. But I think having like a very strong a brand, maybe musically, again, you can write. It's a skill, I think, important skill for all composers to be able to write in different styles. But if you have a particular style like you do, I think you have a very
Me? Oh,
yes, and
thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, like you definitely have a sound. So I think, you know, just to find that and to be able to at least somehow market it and show people that's like your version of whatever, that could be helpful. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna add on to that, actually. I was gonna say, and it's also important not to be afraid to ask your followers and your audience for like feedback or what they want to see more of, right? Especially as a YouTube content creator myself, I'm totally open to what, you know, the people who watch want to see, because, you know, ultimately they're going to drive the views and stuff. And if they probably want something, then other people will probably be interested in seeing that as well, right? So do you find that as well?
Yes, that's perfect. Exactly what you said. Always ask questions. So it is proven that even on an Instagram post, if you have a photo, you know, of Chris at his desk or at his piano, right, like yourself or someone, I'm just using, right?
Yeah.
Write a question like, or I don't know, maybe you're holding a hot dog and a hamburger. Which should I eat today? I mean, it sounds so dumb, but people are 3 times as likely. It will get 3 times or more statistically post with questions, because people want to answer those questions. You know,
Right.
it's silly. So I think exactly like you said, not only do you get information from your direct audience, but you make them feel like they're heard and they're involved. And it is important, if possible, to at least reply or click like or heart on at least a few. This is why I take so much time. I try to respond to almost everything, or at least like every comment, unless it's nasty, because sometimes you get gross comments or weird comments, and I'm like,
yeah. Fair enough. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
for the most part, yeah, it takes a lot of time, but you need to, again, create that relationship. It's not a one-way street. This is not, if you have a friend and you're always giving them compliments, oh, Chris, you're so amazing. Chris, I baked you some cookies. Chris, I love your music. And then you're like, nah, and then you never like tell me anything, or at least thank you. I'm not going to be interested anymore.
Yeah.
You know, people tend to think of online as not it is a real world. These are people with feelings, you know? So I think it's important, if they do, you know, if you ask a question or stuff like that, make sure to try to answer at least a few of them, you know, so people feel like, oh, wow, like they're interactive. Like I can talk to them. They're accessible, not too accessible. I've made that mistake where people start feeling a little too comfortable, and then I'm getting all kinds of like requests that I obviously can't do for everybody. But I think just having that real rapport with somebody is important, and asking questions is the best way to start that.
Yeah, and I like on that balance topic, I definitely agree with that too. It's like you definitely want to be accessible, and you want your audience to know like you're there for them, and you know you're listening. So I usually make a point too to try to, like you said, at least react to their comments. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I think just you know, growing up with the internet and creating content and just putting ourselves out there. It's a fun game. Sometimes it feels like work, but you know, at least I can say I'm fortunate to be able to do what I do, and I'm fortunate to be able to speak with you. So thank you for jumping on with me, Tina.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you again. So where can people find you? I mean, that's a no-brainer question.
In case you guys don't know who I'm Tina. So Tina Guo, Guo, like whoa, or the sad version, like woe is me, whoa, Guo. I'm on all the social media platforms. You can just go to tinaguo.com, which is my website, and there's also links there to my Amazon list, to all, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, all that stuff, merchandise store. On YouTube, there's lots of videos, and yeah, that's basically it.
You can't not find Tina. That's what I'm saying. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Tina. It was really helpful, and for you guys watching, thank you so much. Please leave a comment. Let us know, you know, what you learned today, and if you found it interesting, please let me know. I'd love to do more and more interviews like this, and
Comment. We're gonna read all these comments.
Yes, we will. We'll leave some hearts and everything. So yeah, anyway, thank you again, Tina. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Okay.
How's everything?
Everything is actually really good. I've been super, super busy, which I'm very
Amazing.
grateful for. So everything is good. Is this weird?
Ooh, look at that.
Or we could do a
Space? That
maybe that's a little bit more calming. The other one's like too
sure.
short.
I mean, honestly, your room is just as good, but this doesn't really matter.
But
It's
look,
if you're comfortable.
plants all crooked. Well, yeah, we can leave it like this. It looks a little
Yeah.
messy, but
No.
so
I'm just
I
curious.
always turn to the acoustic cello, and even when I'm learning new, like last night, I was like jamming on a new Dream Theater track that I'm wanting to do a cover of.
He doesn't like that question.
Bagel, you're totally ruining this interview. I don't think it's professional at all.
No.
So, hey, Bagel. Hold on
Aw.
1 second. Rambo, can you take the dogs? Is he here? Oh, yeah, I think, by the way, Rambo's my husband. People are like, what? Bagel, pizza. Can you please take the dog? Go with your dad. It's my husband. Oh, go.
So cute. Oh.
All right, guys.
Good
Okay.
mom.
Okay, so.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. What were you asking me? You were asking
Oh,
me?
I was just asking like what your preferred instrument to play.